Hi, I'd like to show you some watercolor techniques that'll help make your paintings more successful. First, the watercolors that you'll need to use are the Fantasia by Sakura, and they have some student grade watercolors that are called koi. The tube watercolors are great because they're very economical and they get vibrant colors. The Sakura Fantasia watercolors actually come in a container that you can use for water, and it also has a lid that you can use for a palette. Now, the 6 techniques that I'd like to show you include wash, dry on dry, wet on dry, wet on wet, and 2 different blotting techniques. The first one I'd like to show you is a wash. You'll need your watercolor brush, your watercolor paper. I've already put some of these wonderful tube watercolors out in the palette, and then container for water, both dirty water and clean water for painting. So we're going to rinse the brush off and load it up with water, and then we're just going to paint. This is just clear, clean water, just to saturate the paper, just till it gets a little glisten. You can kind of see how it's doing that. Then we're going to pick up a little bit of the watercolor with some water, and then we're going to create this wonderful wash across the paper. Now you notice these are beautifully translucent. We're going to go right underneath so they don't really overlap, so it makes a very gradual, clear, translucent wash. There, that looks great. Now when this is dry, you can actually layer these. So I've got one already prepared for you. We'll put a second wash on top of the first, so you can see how the layering of the watercolors really changes the values. Look how great that looks. Gets a little bit darker, and this was dry when I put the second wash on. You can actually do this a third time to get even a darker value. Because watercolors are transparent, you build up your colors this way rather than coming right out of the tube. That's also a very economical way to do this. And if you're trying to do this with a big group of students, how nice it is to not have to have a set or a bunch of cake watercolors for them to all use together. So there are the 3 different layers of the watercolor. Now the next technique I'd like to show you is the dry on dry. So this is a wash that I've already put down for you. And I'm going to use a really dry brush and pick up a little bit of paint. And then you get some really great textured marks by doing that on the dry. Isn't that wonderful? This one, dry wash already for you. We're actually going to make this a wet on top of the dry. You can kind of see the difference in that. It looks great. Okay. This one's a lot of fun. This is a wash. Then we're going to do this wash again, but we're going to leave it wet this time. And we're going to add wet watercolor and watch what it does. This is so great how it just bleeds out and makes really interesting textures. You could do this with the same colors or with different colors. And with the Fantasia watercolors, they're so vibrant and so smooth. They work really well. The last technique is a blotting technique. We'll put a little bit darker wash on this. Just lay down the colors. And this is where your paper towel comes in really handy. And we're actually literally going to just blot this up so it creates really interesting textures. This is subtractive, we're taking away. And then positive, we're adding. So you have a variety of textures there. And that's your 6 techniques. So again, we have wash, dry on dry, wet on dry, wet on wet, and 2 different blotting techniques. Now let's look and see how we could use those in an actual painting. First we have the wash, the green of the grass, and then there's a dry on dry technique. Notice how the sand and the little creature have been done with a dry brush. Next is wet on dry for the sky. Then the wet on wet, where the colors have really blended in the sky and the clouds. And then both blotting techniques down in the sand. I hope you have great success using these 6 techniques in your watercolor paintings.